Well, good morning, everyone. I pray that you are well and that you are yet again excited to be on God's wake up list, that God has again proven himself faithful by allowing us to have breath in our body, blood running warm in our veins, and a reasonable portion of health and strength. If you're grateful for that this morning, you ought to just tell God thank you in the chat. I tell you, I'm learning every day not to take a moment of life for granted. Any moment in life that God gives us is one less than we deserve, because I tell you, all of us have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. But I want to thank God for being faithful. I want to thank God for being present. I want to thank God for being his amazing self. God is our refuge and our strength, the very present help in the time of trouble. And so, yes, we are here together for our second of 10 financial fitness seminars for this year, 2021, or as I've been calling it since January 1st, 2020 plus one. I tell you, the hymn writer John Newton said, through many dangers, toils, and snares, and we still dealing with dangers, toils, and snares, even in 2021. Pandemic is still not over. Yes, vaccines are out and all that type of stuff, and people are ramping up that process, but we still got a long ways to go. And it's just a lot going on in the land. But God is so great and gracious toward us as to keep us. He said he would keep our minds in perfect peace as they are stayed on him. And so I'm grateful for you. I'm grateful for you this morning. Those of you who have made the decision that this is not only your year to stretch in your faith, not only this is your year to stretch in your family life, not only your year to stretch in your physical fitness, but that this is your year to stretch financially, that you want to put yourself in the position to leave an inheritance for your children's children. If you don't have children, to leave a legacy and an imprint in this world through what you're able to do philanthropically, entrepreneurially, through your business, through work, through your employment, through economic improvement. And so I am grateful that you have taken a few moments out of your Saturday to join us. And I'm so excited. Last month, we talked about life insurance, and that was an amazing, amazing presentation from Stan Harrison of State Farm Insurance. And today will be no less amazing. As a matter of fact, every round goes higher and higher and higher. I'm going to introduce our special guest in just a moment, but y'all know what I'm about to ask you first to do. The first thing I am going to ask you to do this morning is to share this broadcast. If you're here, if you're invested in making sure that your financial future is secure and you have persons connected to you that you know could use some information and some help stretching financially, cleaning up their credit, getting their financial lives in order, the least you could do is either tag them in the chat or share this on your page. So I'm going to ask that everybody that's joined me at this point would do so. I've already shared. I'm never going to ask you to do something I won't do. So I'm asking everybody, all of you that are watching on YouTube, I need you to share. All of you that are watching on Facebook, I need you to share. We are going to break the back of poverty in our lives, particularly in the Black community. Not only are we going to break the back of poverty, but we are going to thrive and be successful in our finances. Amen. We're going to be the example and the model for financial health and wealth. Somebody ought to put that in your comment box this morning as a prophetic word to yourself. I will be financially healthy and I will be financially wealthy. You know, a lot of times we exempt ourselves from financial wealth by saying, well, any way you bless me, Lord, I'll be satisfied. I understand the concept behind that, but I will be financially healthy and I will be financially wealthy. And how do we do that? We do that through education. We do that through doing the work. So we get the motivation from the education. And prayerfully, as we are motivated and educated, then we will be transformed and we will live differently. And so I'm so excited about today's presentation. As always, I want to thank Pastor Faye for inviting our special guests. And we're gonna hit this every month, you all. It's so exciting. I am bubbling over with joy and excitement. So I don't want to hold your patience too long, but remember, tomorrow morning we are in Sunday school at 9:10 a.m. 9:10 a.m. to 10:05 Sunday school. Then we have our pre-service chat at 10:15. I think it's 10:10 to 10:25 or so. And then we go into worship at 10:30 a.m. tomorrow. It's going to be a powerful expression of God's power and presence with us tomorrow. So don't miss that. If you're visiting with us, I greet you. Thank you for being with us this morning. This topic is not just for people in Daytona. This for credit repair pertains to everybody. So invite all your people everywhere, all across the U.S., so that they can be a part of this morning. This morning, we have with us one who is capable, one who is passionate, and one who is spiritually informed and empowered to help us build better financial lives when it comes to our credit. And I'll be very honest. I've been there where my credit score has been in the 300s and 400s and low 500s. I've been there, and it can be intimidating to try to get that stuff taken care of. You tell yourself, I don't have enough money to clear all this stuff, but I need you this morning to break the barriers off of your mind. I need you to break the barriers off of your heart and open yourself to this. I promise you that there is a way that you can move forward and have a better financial future. There is a way for you to clean up your credit. There is a way for you to be in the position to be able to purchase a home and not just rent for the rest of your life. There is a way for you to deal with evictions and foreclosures and things that may be on your credit that are derogatory. There is a way. So open up your mind, open up your spirit this morning to receive the knowledge. I'm going to pray, and then I'm going to introduce and bring to us our special guest who will lead us. Father, we thank you for this day and this moment and this time. You said that in your word that money answers all things. Yet you still said that the love of money is the root of all evil. So Father, help us this morning. Help us to live in the delicate balance of understanding the power of money while not allowing money to have power over us. So Father, open our minds, open our hearts, maybe not be intimidated or fearful in this moment. Give us a heart not only to receive the information for ourselves, but also to share it with someone else so that indeed we can be financially healthy and wealthy. This we pray in Jesus' name. Amen, amen, and amen. I want to bring to us, as you press that share button one more time, I want to bring to us our special guest, Mr. Tim Sanders of Credit Repair of Florida. Mr. Tim Sanders.
Thank you, Pastor McGee. I really appreciate it. Thanks for the glowing introduction. I was looking around to see who you were talking about as you were saying that, but I'm very glad to be a part, and I'm very honored and humbled to be invited to present for your show. And definitely want to thank Pastor Faye for the invitation. Pastor Faye and I, we partnered on some educational stuff in the past, and that's what I love doing, is being able to educate folks in regards to credit, especially our people. And the thing about it is being able to take a lot of the mystery and the myth out of when it comes to credit. There's a lot of misinformation that's out there, and a lot of misleading folks and people that are misguided because of it. But I always educate from a place of information, of research and experience. So it's not any hypotheticals that I use when I educate and I talk about this stuff. Well, and for the audience, my name is Tim Sanders. I'm the founder and the president of a company located here in Central Florida, which is called Credit Repair of Florida. I've been in business for almost 6 years now, and I've been able to help in excess of 1,000 people improve their credit and go on to leverage that credit to meet their financial goals. More and more things are depending on credit. I mean, whether it's not only purchasing homes, automobiles, but there's your employment could be based on your credit. Utilities are based on credit. If you're in the military, you can't get a security clearance if your credit is not up to speed. So it's ubiquitous. You can't get away from it. But the thing about it is, it's the more you know about it, the more you're educated about it, the more the less mystery that you take out of it. Because when you think at the end of the day, you really you can't go get a degree in credit, right? You don't. There's not a class that you take coming through school in regards to credit. Why is that when so much is affected by your credit? So I don't have the answer to that, but what I do know is that overall, flawed credit is more beneficial to the establishments and the powers that be, right, than perfect credit. So the more people that have who have flaws in your credit, then the higher interest rates that they can charge you, the more the credit bureaus can charge for sharing your information, and the more lenders are willing to pay for that information. So but what I'm going to do, I'm going to go into some things in regards to credit. I'm going to I have a presentation that I'm going to share, and after I get through the presentation, we're going to do some I'll do some Q&A for anyone who has any questions in regards to some of the things that I went over. And before I go into that, let me also share too that just like Pastor described, I too have had some very negative situations when it comes to credit. I've had really, really bad credit at one time. That's basically how I ended up getting into this industry, is because I fell on some really tough times back during the 2008 through 2010, the real estate crash, and ended up with really bad credit, and I had to build my way back up. And on the way there, I decided to educate myself on all things credit, and from there I started my business. So let me go into my presentation, and we'll go ahead and get into talking about the things that I want to share with you today. So give me 1 second here. Okay. So just like I mentioned before, my company is Credit Repair Florida. I'm a credit restoration company in Central Florida with a lot of different clients. Been in business almost 6 years now. I have affiliations with a lot of local and also national associations. Orlando, I'm the only credit repair company that's a member of the Orlando Regional Realtors Association. I partner with Central Florida Urban League on occasions, Seminole County Community Service. I do classes for them when they have their workshops. Also banks and real estate companies that call on me when they do first-time home buyers workshop and other credit-related situations. Okay, the things that I want to cover this morning, we're going to talk about what is a credit score, basically what exactly the definition of what a credit score is. We're going to talk about the effects of having a low credit score. We're going to talk about the elements of a credit score. I'm going to attempt to dispel some credit myths, and then we're going to discuss some ways to improve a credit score. We'll do a Q&A, and then I'll talk a little bit about my services and what I provide. Now, the thing about the thing about credit too, everybody has their credit experience, and I think everybody has something that they could share that would probably help all of us in our credit journey. I'm not beyond learning from others as well. So hopefully, as we get into this, and once we go into the Q&A side of it, if you have a credit story to share that might be beneficial for everyone, then I would invite you to, make a comment on something that may help everyone. And also, again, like I said, I'm not beyond learning from you guys as well, because everyone has their credit experience and their, credit journey. So we can learn from each other in that regard. Okay, so we're going to talk about credit scoring and what does a credit score actually mean? Okay. So I'm going to get real technical on some stuff. I hope it doesn't bore you to death, but again, I'm coming from a place of research and, factual information. So I hope you receive it, and I hope that this information that you can share and benefit from it, and also, share and pass it along as well. So a credit really determines how much money you can borrow and how much interest that you will pay on the money that you borrow. So your credit score, it's to a lender, it's going to tell them how much money that they will lend you and how much they're going to charge you for lending you that money, be it credit cards, be it retail cards, be it personal loans, be it lines of credit, or financing, some type of financing vehicle. Each credit score is specific for each bureau. So we all know that the three major credit bureaus, we have Experian, we have Equifax, and then we have TransUnion. Of those three credit bureaus, each of them are of equal importance. No credit bureau has a higher standing or higher relevance than the other one. It's just that some companies choose, when they're running your credit reports, they'll choose to use one of the three. However, they all are equally dependent on with the basically with the banks. Okay, so your credit scores can range from a 300 to a 850. 300 being the lowest, and then 850 being the highest. The lower your credit score, the bigger risk that you are viewed to a potential lender or creditor. Okay, and the higher the score, the lower the risk, obviously. Okay, so the credit score is generated by analyzing information contained on your credit report or credit profile at a particular point in time. What that means is that your credit score, it is not a static number. It's not a number that stays for a certain period of time and then refreshes and moves up once a month or once every 3 months or once a year. That number is a dynamic number. So when someone gives you your credit report, what they're basically doing is taking a snapshot of what's reporting in your credit profile at that time, plugging in a algorithm or a formula and coming up with a number. So that can vary. So it's just the only thing that score is telling you is that at that moment in time that they run your credit score, then that's what all of the calculations, that's what the number is coming up to be. So that number can fluctuate depending on when you run your credit score. So and most people have the Credit Karma app. If you notice, that score can change from week to week. Well, the reason is because they may be pulling your credit score and credit companies report to the credit bureaus on a monthly basis. So if you run your credit score and there's a creditor that hasn't reported for that month yet, and then he may report the next week, so you could run your credit score one day and it's one score, and then the next week it could be a completely different score, just because you have more information that's being reported on it at that time, or something may have changed the week before. So my point is that that's a dynamic number depending on what's being reported on your credit report at the time they run your credit score. Okay, so what a credit score tells a lender statistically is that the odds that a consumer will default within a 90-day time frame. So what the statistics from a credit score tells a lender or creditor is that what are the odds that this consumer will default if I give them this loan, if I finance them on this deal, what are the odds that they will default in a 90-day time frame? Well, if your credit score is an 800 or above, that then tells that makes you a very low risk to default on a loan or financing. So basically, you are a 1,292 to 1 odd that of defaulting on that particular loan. Drop down to, say, if a credit score is from a 600 to a 500, then that odd goes down to 8 to 1. So that's, you become a very huge risk. It's almost inevitable that that consumer may default on that particular loan if the credit score is below a 600. So it's very unlikely you're going to receive any type of financing, reasonable financing, if your credit score is below a 600. And if your credit score is, if it's above an 800, then you're probably going to get approved for just about anything that you're applying for. With all things considered. Okay. All right. So let's just let me give you a quick example on some hard numbers here. So if we're talking about financing for the purchase of a home, and I know, and the reason why I have this example is because probably 90% of the people who seek out my services are people who are trying to purchase a home. So I'll use this as an example, and then let's say on a 30-year fixed mortgage, and I excuse the typo, but I have 100,000, but that's actually on a $200,000 home. Let's say a 30-year fixed mortgage rate, and right now the mortgage rate's at around 3%. So if your credit score is a 720 or higher, that puts you in the upper tier of consumer to be eligible for the best mortgage rate, best percentage rate. So that takes you at about a 3% APR, annual percentage rate, if your credit score is a 720 or higher, which means that on a $200,000 mortgage, your payments are going to be about $843 per month. Okay, over the life of that loan, let's say the life of 30 years over that loan, you would have paid $103, $555 in interest over the life of that loan. Okay, and let's go down to, if your credit score is about a 6, between a 560 and a 619, now your interest rate goes up to about a 6.2% interest rate. Okay, so with a 6.2% interest rate on a $200,000 loan, you're talking about a monthly payment, and this doesn't include escrow when we talk about taxes and insurance. So you're looking at about $1,225 on a $200,000 loan, 30 years, and over the life of that loan, you will pay in excess of $240,000. So you're going to pay about $241,000 if your credit score is a 619 through a 560. Anything below that, you're probably not going to receive any type of conventional financing after that point. That's why I didn't mention the bottom one here. But being realistic, you're going from a 3% to a 6.2%. So if you're in the market of purchasing a home, your goal should be 720. Okay, you want to try and get the best interest rate possible, especially considering how historically low the interest rates are at this point. Okay. All right, let's move on from that. All right, now we're going to talk about the factors or the element. Dorian, close that door, please. We're going to talk about the factors or the elements of a credit score. Okay. So the determining factors of a credit score. So you have what goes into your credit score. As you can see my pie chart here. You have payment history, you have the amounts owed, length of credit, history, types of credit in use, and then new credit. So I'm gonna dive into the details of these elements that go into your credit score. And we're going to talk about the impact and the importance of each element of the credit score. So starting first with payment history, okay? So payment history has the biggest impact to your credit score. The way that you pay your bills has the biggest impact. There's nothing more important than paying your bills on time. That has the biggest impact to your credit score. That's 35% of your credit score is how you pay your bills. Okay. There's many types of accounts that are considered in the payment history on a credit report. You know, of course, we have credit cards as retail accounts, installment loans, student loans, mortgage loans, etc. Public record and collection items are considered quite serious. Let's say now, depending on how late you are on account, and I'll get into some of these in more detail as we go along through the presentation. How late you were, how much you owed on an account, and how recently they occurred. These all factor into the impact of your payment history and how many there are. Now, let's talk about the trauma that a late payment can cause to a credit score. Okay, so one missed payment, one 30-day late payment can be detrimental to your credit score. One late payment can drop your credit score over 100 points. And I've see it all the time, and I've had that happen personally. So you really want to, at all costs, try to make sure that your payments are always on time. Okay, if you're in a position where you're facing some type of hardship or anything, do whatever you need to do to try to make sure that you're not getting dinged with late payments. And so now late payments report at 30 days after your payment due date. Okay, so immediately after, if you miss a payment date, that doesn't immediately get reported to your credit report. After 30 days, after you're 30 days late, that's when it reports to your credit report. Okay, so if you miss a due date, but then you pay on the 29th day after the due date, that won't be reported to your credit on your credit report. But if you go beyond the 30 days, then that is going to potentially hit your credit. Okay. Now, one of the things too, I know, being a lot of people are experiencing hardships, and they came out with the CARES Act, in which companies were asked to make exceptions for a lot of people that are experiencing hardships. But the thing about those exceptions or concessions that these companies make, you have to arrange for that. You can't just automatically assume, well, they have a moratorium on late payments or mortgage payments or things like that. So if I'm late, it won't hit my credit. That's not necessarily true. If you are experiencing a type of hardship and you're trying to avoid getting your credit damaged by late payments, you want to go to that lender or creditor and specifically request a hardship due to your financial situations. If it's COVID related, then you basically can either receive a forbearance or they will make some type of concessions so that you don't get hit with your late payments. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Let's see. Okay, so we're going to talk about how long delinquencies can stay on your credit reports. Now, when it comes to bankruptcies can stay on your credit report for 10 years. A Chapter 7 bankruptcy, which is the bankruptcy that wipes out all of your debt completely, that will stay on your credit report for 10 years from the date that it was discharged. Okay, a Chapter 7 bankruptcy, that'll stay on 7 years from the day that you go through your payment arrangement. And the payment arrangement is usually a 3-year time frame. So you're still looking at 10 years that the bankruptcy will impact your credit score. Taxes and liens, they no longer report on credit report. Judgments, taxes, and liens no longer report on credit reports. Okay, it's still public record stuff, so it'll still be stuff that they can, find in the county. But those things, as of April of 2018, they no longer report on credit reports. Late payments. A late payment can reflect on your credit report for 7 years. But the thing I want to be clear about is that after 2 years or 24 months, a late payment no longer impacts your credit score. Okay. Now it'll still be visible on your credit report, but after 24 months of consecutive on-time payments, that late payment is no longer impacting your credit score. So, so over time, a late payment will have, it will lose its steam or won't have as big of an impact to your credit score over time. Okay, so after 2 years, then you should completely get all of your points back that you would have lost from a late payment. Okay, charge-offs, collections, they stay on your credit report for 7 years. Now, the 7 years, it's the statute of limitations for the 7 years. That starts on the date of your last payment. Doesn't start when the account was established, but on the date that you would have made your last payment on this particular account, that starts to clock on the statute of limitations. That being said, those of you who may be out there dealing with collections or negotiating with debt collectors, understand that if you get into a payment arrangement with a debt collector, if you make a payment to that debt collector, that in turn can reset the statute of limitations that account can appear in your credit report for another 7 years. Okay, so be very careful when you're dealing with debt collectors and creditors, and understand the repercussions of making payments on collections. Okay. All right. Let's talk about inquiries. Okay. The one thing about inquiries, when I'm working with someone, I don't put a big emphasis on inquiries, and I'll explain that as we go further through the presentation. There's 2 different types of inquiries. There's hard inquiries, there's soft inquiries. Inquiries can stay on your credit report for 2 years. And after 2 years, an inquiry will fall off your credit report. And again, and I'll get more into details in regards to inquiries, because I get a lot of questions on inquiries. Again, even though I don't put a lot of emphasis on them. Okay. All right. So let's talk about account balances. Account balances have a 30% impact to your credit score. Okay. So when we talk about account balances, we're talking about the total amount that owed on accounts, particularly revolving credit accounts. Okay. A revolving account is an account that once you pay the balance down, then your available money to borrow goes back up. Okay, so an example of a revolving credit account would be, of course, a credit card, a retail card, or maybe like a line of credit. So once I pay that, if I have $1,000 credit card and I have a $500 balance, now I have $500 that's available for me to use. However, once I pay that balance down, if I pay that balance down to 0, I'm back up to $1,000 that I have available for me to use. That being said, so there's 2 different types of account. There's a revolving account, and then the second type would be an installment account. An installment account is an account that once you pay it in full, that account automatically closes. So an example of an installment account would be, let's say, a personal loan, an auto loan. Once you pay that off, boom, that account automatically closes. So this is, and I want to emphasize, this is very important. Revolving accounts have a bigger impact to your credit score than what an installment account. If you're looking to move up your credit score as quickly as you possibly can, looking for ways to boost up your credit, you want to choose a revolving account over an installment account. Okay, a $1,000 credit card will have a bigger impact on my credit score than would a $40,000 vehicle loan. The reason being is because revolving accounts have to be managed. A revolving account will reflect a more disciplined consumer, because you have, not only do you have to make sure that the payment's on time, but you have to be responsible with the money that's available for you to use. You have to keep those balances down, and then you have to make sure that you being responsible with using that money. So that reflects a more disciplined consumer than a fixed item that the only thing you got to do is just pay it on time, and then you're fine, and it automatically closes once the account is paid in full. Okay. All right. So let me just back up again real quick. Again, 30% of your credit score is based on how you manage your credit accounts, how you manage your revolving account limits, your revolving account balances, and your payments on them. So with that being said, the quickest way that you can move up your credit score is to there's no secret quick fix, secret sauce, anything like that. You want to make sure you're making payments on time. Okay, payment history, that's the fastest, 35%, and then managing those revolving accounts, paying on time, keeping your balances low. Anytime you go above 30% of your credit limit on an account, then it's going to hurt your credit score. That's going to be a negative impact on your credit score. So you want to make sure that you're keeping those account balances below 30% if you don't want to be hurting your credit score. Now, that being said, whenever you maintain a 10% or less balance on those revolving credit accounts, you're actually that's boosting your credit score. So you can actually get a boost on your credit score by maintaining those credit balances below 10%. And then you can avoid hurting your credit score by keeping those balances below 30% of the limit. So if you have a $1,000 credit card, if you go above $300 on the balance, then you're going to hurt your credit score. If you keep it below $100, then you're going to be not only not hurting it, but you're going to be giving yourself some extra points by maintaining that low balance on that. Okay, so length of credit history. Length of credit history, how long you have an account, the older the accounts are, that's going to help your credit score. That's 15% of your credit score is how long those seasoned established credit accounts that you have. Okay, so how long your credit accounts have been established, including the age of the oldest account, the age of your newest account, and the average age of all your accounts. So if you have accounts that are 5-10 years, then those are actually helping your credit score. So if you have some accounts that you haven't used for a while, and you don't feel like you have any use for them, or you don't want to get tempted and using those and running up the score, and you decide that maybe I'm just going to cancel these accounts. Well, I would advise that if you plan to getting any type of major financing in the near future, you probably don't want to cancel those old seasoned established accounts, because you're going to lose the benefits of having those accounts if you close and cancel those accounts. Keep those older accounts, and then once you get what you need to get, you purchase your home, your automobile, you get your business loan or whatever, then if you want to go ahead and cancel it at that point, then that might be a wiser move. But you want to keep those old season accounts and use them for their benefit until you are able to go and get that major financing that you're trying to get. Okay. Okay, so a closed account will still show up on your credit report, and the history of it will be on your FICO score. So even though an account would be closed, the history of that account will still stay on your credit report for a couple of years. But then, you won't be receiving as much benefit from that by keeping that account active. Okay. All right. So types of credit in use. So when we talk about types of credit in use, which has a 10% impact to your credit score, we're talking about the diversity of your credit profile. Okay. So you want to try to have a diverse mix of credit on your credit profile. What I mean by that is you want to have, you don't want to have only just credit cards on your credit report. Okay. So all things equal, if I have someone who only has credit cards and maybe a car note on their credit report, then your credit score is not going to be as strong or as high as someone who has a diverse mix of credit accounts. You may have someone who may have auto loans, a couple of credit cards, maybe a few retail cards, and then a mortgage. So that makes for a more diverse mix of credit accounts on your credit report. Okay. So that's going to give you like a 10%. You're talking about a 10% bump in your credit just by having those diverse accounts. Okay. People with no credit cards tend to be viewed as a higher risk than people who have managed credit cards responsible. So we'll go back to those revolving credit accounts. So revolving credit accounts, that is for a lender or a creditor, that's the holy grail of what's on your of credit history that they're looking for. If you display that you are a responsible consumer and are able to manage revolving credit accounts and keep them at a very restricted balance and paying them on time, then you're going to be viewed as a very favorable consumer, and you're going to have a really solid credit score and be able to get approved for the things that you're trying to get approved for. Okay, so new credit. We talk about new credit, which has a 10% impact to your credit score, and new credit would be, let's say, new accounts. And this kind of goes in reverse, right? Because when you add a new account to your credit profile, your credit score, that will have that's going to initially, it'll negatively impact your credit score. So you'll take a hit when you add a new account to your credit score. Now, once that account is seasoned, once you go a couple of 3 or 4 or 5 months of making payments on that account, then you start to get those points back. But initially, by adding a new account to your credit report, you're going to take a hit. Okay, so not only are you going to take a hit by adding a new account, you're going to take a hit from the inquiry when you apply for that account. Okay, so inquiries, you're going to take a hit from inquiries as well. Again, I don't have a big emphasis on inquiries because they don't impact your credit that much. Depending on what you have on your credit report. If you have a diverse mix of credit, if you have established credit history, then an inquiry has a very small impact to your credit score. Now, for someone just starting out, if you have maybe just one or two, if you're very young, you have maybe one or two accounts on your credit report, then an inquiry can have a bigger impact to your credit score. Okay, so and then there's two types of inquiries. There's hard inquiries, and then there's soft inquiries. Okay, a hard inquiry occurs whenever you apply for something. So whenever you go and apply for something, that's considered a hard inquiry, and then it could have a negative impact to your credit score. Okay, now a soft inquiry, it's when you are not applying for something. Let's say like you maybe doing going through a credit monitoring service just to inquire and take a look at what's on your credit report. Like anytime you run your Credit Karma, maybe like an Identity IQ, Score ID, or some of the other credit monitoring services out there, you run your credit report. That's going to be a soft inquiry, and that doesn't affect your credit score. It's visible on your credit report, but it does not affect your credit score. Another example of a soft inquiry is sometimes companies will run your credit for the purpose of marketing to you. So you may look at your credit report and you see where all these inquiries have been made in which you haven't applied for anything, if you haven't authorized, then there's a possibility that these are simply from companies that are running your credit so that they can offer you some of their promotional products. You get these pre-approved letters in the mail from these credit card companies and things like that. Usually those companies they did a soft pull on your credit, and then so now they're marketing to you. They don't affect your credit scores. Okay, those don't affect your credit score. Now the other thing too about hard inquiries is that when it comes to shopping for a home or an auto, when it comes to shopping for applying for mortgages or auto loans, you have about a 45-day window in which multiple inquiries will count as one. Okay, so if I'm going to purchase a home, I'm going to different testing and waters with different lenders, different mortgage companies. Within that 45-day window, that's only going to count as one inquiry. Okay, the same with automobile loan. If I'm going to you go to purchase a car. Typically, when you go to buy a car, especially a used car, they will run your credit with multiple financing companies. Okay, so you go and you apply one time, you look on your credit report, you see about 10 inquiries on there. Don't get alarmed by that, because it's only going to count as one if it's within that 45-day time frame. Okay, inquiries, again, they will appear on your credit report for 2 years, for 24 months. Now, after 1 year, an inquiry does not impact your credit score. Okay, it'll still be visible on your credit report. However, it's no longer impacting your credit score. So after 12 months, 1 year, and a hard inquiry has no impact to your credit score. Okay, after maybe about 6 months, it starts losing its steam, not affecting your credit score as much. But then again, so then once it hits 12 months, then it's having no impact to your credit score. Okay. Okay, let's talk about what causes bad credit. I think some things are pretty obvious. Some things we may have touched on prior, but making late payments, of course. When you're maxing out your credit cards, remember, anytime you go above that 30%, you're gonna have a negative impact. Applying for too many credit cards. Let me go back to those inquiries real quick too. So now that 45-day window with the mortgage and auto loan, we know that it's only going to count as one. However, if you apply for, it has to be one or the other. So if I apply for a mortgage and within that 45-day window, multiple mortgages, and then I apply for an automobile during the same time, it's still going that automobile, I'm going to take another hit by that automobile, because it's two different types of loans. So, and the same for, automobiles. I'm applying for automobiles and then I throw a mortgage in there, then I'm taking another hit because it's two different types. So it's still, 30-day, 45-day time frame over each type. But if you're mixing the two, then, you're going to take another hit because of it being a different type of loan that you're applying for. All right, so maxing out credit cards can hurt you. Applying for too many credit cards can hurt you. It's different with credit card. Each time you apply for a credit card, it's a hard inquiry. You're gonna take a hit for that. Closing zero balance lines of credit. So we talked about if you have established credit accounts and then you close those accounts, then you're not going to be benefiting as much by having those seasoned credit accounts, and then or refusing to use your credit. So if you have credit accounts that you let them go inactive because you haven't used them, then a lot of times credit card companies will close those accounts because of no activity. So you want to, first of all, you want to establish that payment history. When you have a new account, you want to go about a good, maybe a good 24 months of having a little bit of a balance on there, so you can establish the payment history on that account. Okay, and then and if you have seasoned accounts that you're not using, every now and then you probably want to go back and make a charge or something on that account so that you can keep it active. Okay, you don't want companies going back closing those accounts from lack of use. Again, I want to emphasize that especially if you're trying to get some type of major financing in the future, if you're trying to purchase a home, get an automobile, business loan, something to that effect, then you want to make sure that not only that you're making payments on time, but you want to make sure that you're keeping those established accounts active and not letting them get closed before you get a chance to go and get that major type of financing that you're looking for. All right, okay, things that you can do to improve your credit score. All right, you want to first and foremost, again, pay bills on time. Keep the revolving account balances under 25%. So we know that 30% are going to negatively affect your score. So I like to be conservative and say keep it at 25% or lower. And then if you really want to benefit the benefits of having those low balance accounts, keep it below that 10%. Okay. Limit the inquiries on your credit reports. You understand the difference between hard inquiries versus soft inquiries. Becoming an authorized user on a family member's account. Okay. Many of you have heard of they're called piggybacking or trade lines is another thing. So becoming an authorized user is when someone allows you to get onto their credit accounts to get the benefits of having their usually it's a revolving credit account, the benefits of having that credit card and payment history on there. Now the caveat to that is you want to be careful, because if someone allows you on their credit account as an authorized user, then yes, you could benefit by being an authorized user on that account. However, any type of negative reporting from that account is going to hurt your credit score as well. So if you get on somebody's account, credit card, and they run up the balance, then that's going to hurt your credit score. Or if they miss a payment, then that's going to dramatically having a traumatic effect to your credit score. So you want to be very careful, and that's one of the things that I try to steer my clients away from, is those authorized user accounts. I think there are better options out there. There's companies out there that I can recommend that will allow most people to establish their own primary accounts. Being a primary on an account will have a much bigger impact to your credit score than being an authorized user. So authorized users, I try to steer my clients away from those because of the risk versus the reward on those accounts. Okay, you can increase your credit limits. So increasing your credit limits could possibly help your credit score, but just understand that if you're going to increase your credit limits, then it's just like applying for another credit card. They're going to run your credit score before they improve your credit limits if you're going to request it. So not unless you are absolutely confident that you're going to get approved for that, would I recommend requesting an increase in your credit limit. Now, sometimes when some banks, and this happens quite frequently, if you establish that you are a responsible consumer and you have a good history on a credit card, they will automatically just go and increase your credit limits, which in that case, it doesn't affect your credit score. That'll be considered a soft pull because you didn't voluntarily. They just went basically and ran your credit for the purposes of to increase your credit limits. But that happens a lot. But if you're going to go to increase your credit limits voluntarily, then understand that that's just like applying for another credit card. Okay, so the other way to improve your credit, that you can improve your credit score, is when you identify and remove negative, inaccurate, unverifiable information from your credit report. Okay, so let me just say this. Information that is reported on your credit report has to be, and this is the law of the land, according to the Fair Credit Reporting Act. That information has to be 100% verifiable. They have to be able to verify it. They have to be able to validate it. Okay. If they can't verify it, validate it within, let's say, a 30 to 45 day time frame, if you're challenging this derogatory negative information, they have to take it off your credit report. Okay, so information that's reported, and just because it could be very well be your debt. However, if it can't be verified or validated, then by law it has to come off your credit report. So I would say before you run out and pay any type of collections, then challenge that stuff first. If you see any type of negative stuff reporting on your credit report, challenge it, because there's a possibility that whoever's it might be reported inaccurately or outside of the guidelines of the Fair Credit Reporting Act, or they may not be able to validate it or verify it. A lot of times, companies, the record keeping might be compromised. You never know. So challenge that stuff first before you start negotiating with these debt collectors and creditors. Or, of course, you can call my company. That's what we do. Consultations are free. Go through the credit report with you. Challenge that negative information. Use the laws and the regulations and the regulatory agencies to leverage getting those type of negative items taken off of your credit report. Okay. Just a quick. I don't want to get into how much of what I do. I'm mainly just trying to educate, but this is an example of the portal. When clients are working with me, they're able to go in and access the portal, and these graphs and charts, these neat little graphs and charts will then show the progress of your credit as you're working with me from start to finish. Shows how your credit score is progressing and trending upward when you're working with me. Okay. All right. So I'm going to open it up for a Q&A if I can, Pastor. Let me know. And if anybody has any questions, I'll be glad to ask any questions. I appreciate you guys listening to me, and I hope you receive some of this information. I hope it's helpful for yourself. If not, share it with somebody else that could benefit by having this information. And let me stop sharing my screen.
Wow, this was an absolutely amazing presentation. Thank you so much, Mr. Sanders. This was absolutely great. And before we close, we want to make sure that we take any questions that you may have. Angelia Perry asked or states, I have a monthly payment arrangement. Although the payment is being made on time, it negatively impacts my credit because it is a payment arrangement.
Okay, give me one second. I'm trying to get back on. Yeah, okay. I'm sorry, Pastor. Can you repeat that, please?
Angelia Perry asked, she said, I have a monthly payment arrangement. Although the payment is being made on time, it negatively impacts my credit because it is a payment arrangement.
When you say payment arrangements, Angelia, I'm assuming you're in a payment arrangements probably with a collection agency or something to that effect. I don't think the payment arrangement is what's hurting your credit. It's just understand that paying a collection is not going to help your credit. Even though you pay a collection, it's still reflecting on your credit report as a collection. So paying it is not going to benefit. Now, the thing that I would recommend, when you're dealing with debt collectors or those type of payment arrangements, you want to make sure that you get it in writing that they are going to agree to take it off your credit report once it's paid. Okay, so once you pay that in full, you need to have them get an arrangement, them to agree that they'll take it off your credit report. That's the only way you're going to get your points back. Otherwise, what's the point in paying it if it's only going to benefit the debt collector by putting money in their pocket? Okay, so again, first thing you want to do is challenge that stuff, because like I said, just because it's your debt does not necessarily mean that they have the legal right to collect on that debt. So they have to make them establish that they have the legal right to collect on that debt before you start paying them anything. And then if they're able to do that, then you want to get them to agree to take it off your credit report once it's paid. Otherwise, again, they're going to be the only one that's benefiting from that. I hope that if that makes sense for you.
That does make sense. Okay. Any other questions? Can you negotiate lower interest on credit cards to help pay down debt?
That is a great question. You absolutely can negotiate lower interest rates on credit cards, especially considering how low the prime rate is historically low at this point. So it will be a good idea to go back to negotiate the lower interest on credit cards. Now, and that again, that emphasizes again the importance of having good credit, because when you have if you have a strong credit score, that gives you more leverage to negotiate getting those interest rates down, because they know that you have more options if you have a solid credit score.
Awesome. I actually have a question. So I had a credit card that I've been paying on monthly and satisfied the balance. Actually, this happened twice. And then both companies, I think one was Synchrony and one was something else, they both closed the account immediately thereafter. Is that commonplace? I thought that it was up to the consumer to have to close the account. I was just wondering why. Actually, it was Synchrony and Discount Tire. They just closed it as soon as I finished paying.
Right. Let me ask you this, Pastor. How recent was that?
Both were within the last year or so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what happens? A lot of companies, lenders, got spooked because of COVID, and that was very common to see them closing the accounts once you paid them. I don't know of anything illegal. I don't think that's illegal. I think it's it's a very shady practice for them to do that, because of the fact that they only want the consumer to have all of the risks. They don't want to assume any of the risks, but they want all the benefits of receiving the payments. But that has been very common during the COVID era, because these companies are spooked and they're going around just closing these accounts once it's paid. I'm gonna tell you something that I did. Well, as soon as COVID hit, what I did is I pulled all the money out of my credit cards and put it in. I took the cash out, put it in the bank, and then had the cards to pay the. Took that money, put it on auto pay, so it's paying back the card. So now they can't go and close the account, because I basically took all the money out. So that's one of the things I did. Now, I took the risk of it hitting my credit score, but I knew what was going to happen. The moment that, when COVID hit, I saw these companies started closing all these credit cards. Well, you can't close it if I got all of the cash. They're not going to close it if you're owing them money like that. You know what I mean? It's just mainly once those balances have been paid, then they turn around and then they will close those accounts, not giving people access to the funding.
Awesome. Thank you.
No problem.
Another person, Celebrate Realty Group with Pastor Willie Nelson asked, did you say you should keep a small balance versus paying your cards off completely each month?
That depends, right? Because if you have if it's a new account and you haven't established at least a good 12 months of payment history on there, I would say you want to keep a small balance on there so you can establish that payment history, right? Because what happens is that if you have a newer account and you're paying the balances in full, when that account reports to the credit bureaus, it's going to report no activity because the balances have been paid in full. So you want to establish that payment history, some activity on that account, at least for a good year. And then after that, if you want to pay it in full every month, then it's fine because you've already established that payment history. Okay. So yes, if it's, I'll say if it's an account like a year or less out, you want to make sure that you're keeping a smaller balance on there. Preferably, even if you pay a little bit more than higher than the minimum balance, that's even better. But definitely want to keep a little bit of a balance on there within those first 12 months.
Awesome. Man, this has been tremendously informative. If there are any last moment questions, please throw those in the chat. If you don't have any questions, I at least want you to throw some thank yous and Good wishes and God bless you to Mr. Tim Sanders, who took of his time this morning to educate us regarding credit repair. His information is there at the bottom of the screen. So for those of you who are interested and in need of further assistance, that's right, I see the hearts coming up in Facebook. Those of you who need further assistance, please don't hesitate to contact him, Tim Sanders, Credit Repair of Florida. There's his email address right there, creditrepairofflorida@gmail.com. His number, 407-734-3426. Also, his website is creditrepairflorida.com, correct?
Correct. That's correct.
And so, listen, this is our year to stretch. Let's not be satisfied with just getting by financially. You know, if you got a 600 credit score, work on making 2021 the year where you get to a 700. If you've got a 700, work on making 2021 the year where you get 800 or above, because we're always seeking to go higher, always seeking to be the best, because indeed greater is he that is in us than he that is in the world. Thank you again, Mr. Sanders, for sharing with us this morning. It has been such a blessing. It has been our honor, and we are humbled by your presence with us today. And to all of you, my brothers and sisters in Christ and creation that have been with us this morning, thank you for taking of your time, whether you were stationary or you were on the move. I hope that this was a blessing to you. Stay tuned for the first Saturday in April, where we'll be together yet again. And Lisa Baker will be our very special guest in the month of April 3rd, Holy Saturday, the day before Easter Sunday. We will be together for our financial fitness seminar. So God bless each and every one of you. I love you. There's nothing you can do about it. I pray I see you tomorrow morning in Sunday school, in pre-service chat, and in worship. All right. So long. Make it a great Saturday. Make it a fun. Let me also give a shameless plug. Women of God, Pastor Faye Dadsey and Victorious Life Ministries is putting on a series of interviews which start today called The Phoenix Files, for women who have been through, who literally been to hell and back, and God has restored them, and they are now emerging as powerful forces. She has a tremendous ministry to women. I don't want you to miss that. I believe that's at 3:00 p.m. this afternoon. Check that out on her Facebook page this afternoon. So many amazing resources that you have the opportunity to grab hold of, even in this virtual space. Again, thank you, Tim Sanders. Thank you to all of you. Have an amazing day.